What's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 193 of Two Amazon Sellers and a Microphone, brought to you by Solozo and NetRush. And today we're talking about maximizing your Amazon sales, something everybody would like to do, right? We all want to maximize our sales. And joining us to discuss that and all things Amazon is Mike Begg, the co-founder of AMZ Advisors. What's up, Mike?
Hey, Dustin. Thank you for having me here, Chris. Glad to be here as well.
For sure.
Everything's going well on my end. Hopefully everything's good for you guys as well.
All is well. Busy. We were just talking before that we're still recovering from the Prosper show. That was it was a good time to connect with everybody, but it'll wear you out quick. So, but it was a lot of fun down there, and we're really glad that you're joining us. We want to learn a little bit more about your agency and things you're doing to help your clients out, and just talk tactics and strategies that you guys are using. But before we jump into all that, we'd love to just spend a little time digging into your background, how you ended up co-founding an agency in the first place. You got as much time as you want. Give us a little bit of your background.
Sure. I can give you a little story on it. So, it's myself and two other founders of AMZ Advisors, Rob and Steve. Three of us, we're all from Connecticut. And back in, I guess it was 2014 or so, 2013, 2014, we were all working corporate jobs that we absolutely hated. And we were looking for ways to start making money on the side. And we got involved with selling products on Amazon. Well, we started with Kindle, doing the ebooks, then moved on to retail arbitrage, literally going to like every Target and Walmart we could find, just buying up everything and selling it. Then from there, we started importing products from China. The first two brands we had were an art supply brand and like a sporting good outdoor brand. One of those did better than the other. We ended up selling the other one. And then from there, we just kind of realized, a lot of brands don't know what they're doing. Like I said, we were selling art supplies. We were competing against brands like Crayola, and we were, frankly, just kicking their asses. So we were like, all right, this is pretty good. Maybe there's a service here that we can help other people with. So that's kind of how the idea of the agency came about. That was 2015 when we started, and now we've been running it ever since. Got a team of about 43 people in the US, Mexico, Brazil, Costa Rica, and Europe.
So were the three of you like always entrepreneur-like, or was one of you the one that was like, hey, I'm going to do this, and the other guy's like, what are you talking about?
None of us were like super entrepreneurs. We always wanted to work for ourselves. And actually Rob and Steve's parents both had their own businesses. So I don't know, maybe there was some influence there, but we just really didn't like working for other people. I worked for, before I left my job to start the agency, I was working for Sears, and Sears was literally just like going down. Like I could see the writing on the wall. I was like, this isn't working. I was working in real estate, so I could see all the stores closing. I could see all the sales numbers of every store and stuff like that. And I was like, I need something else. So we all kind of started with that. Steve actually had the idea to start the Kindle books first. Then we all kind of started doing that on our own. And then from there, we kind of partnered up in the retail arbitrage and then kept going with the brands and things. So it just kind of grew out of, I don't want to say desperation, but just wanting to make a change.
It's really interesting because that story is very similar to our story. We talked to a lot of people. There seems there's this natural progression of people that get into the e-commerce world. They, retail arbitrage is something people, it's a great way to start. It's a great way to learn. Then you go private label. Then you realize, especially you, I would love to unpack this a little bit, because working for Sears, you're in a traditional retail model. You see, at one point, it was an enormous company, huge. But when you launch your private label brand, you're like, wow, I think I'm doing things better than Sears. Like there is something that it's like, it opens your mind. You're like, I could sell my products to anyone in the world.
Yeah.
Brand it the way that I want to brand it. Have logistics through Amazon that's on scale or better than, you know, a Sears or something. It's fascinating. And then you progress to helping other people manage their businesses. It's like this, it's like an education that you could never pay for at a university.
For sure. I mean, it was definitely an interesting progression. You know, when you work for a company like Sears, you just realize like all the expenses and stuff that you don't really need. I mean, Sears had this massive headquarters in Illinois, outside of Chicago. I forgot the name of the town, but it was larger than like some college campuses I've seen. And you really don't, it's one of the interesting things is like, once you start getting into retail arbitrage, once you start your private labels, you realize that you don't really need that many people to run a business. And I think that's one of the things, I mean, just from the traditional model of retail, of having your stores, of having your teams, it's just something that was a natural progression. Like you said, just kind of realizing that this is just, could be slimmed down way more than it is right now. And you could probably get the same or better results. So yeah, it started with that. I tried to get Sears as a client to sell their appliances on Amazon. That didn't really work, but you know, I gave my shot to the president after I left. I was like, hey, I can help you guys. And they didn't want it. So is what it is.
I wish they could change that.
They're lost. They missed out because a lot of those old retail model companies really struggle understanding, you know, the things that are important on e-commerce are different than in that model.
For sure.
You know, it's, you know, just creating listings, speaking directly to a customer. They're not, you know, a lot of those places aren't used to that. They're used to speaking to other retailers or doing POs, and it's different when you got to go direct to the consumer.
For sure.
That's really interesting. Well, real quick, talk about AMZ Advisors. You know, just a little bit about your agency. You know, what services do you provide? How are you helping your clients? What does that look like?
Yeah. So as I mentioned a little bit before, we have a team of about 43 people right now in the US, Mexico, Costa Rica, Brazil, and in Europe. And what we do is, you know, we're a full service agency. So we manage the channel for a lot of brands. We do everything from content creation to marketing strategy to advertising management, and even help a little bit on the logistics and international expansion side. Like I said, with our kind of global footprint, we can help a lot of brands expand into Europe, into Latin America. We have a big presence here in Latin America. So that's one of the things that we really specialize in helping a lot of brands on the Amazon platform with.
You mentioned Latin America. You expanded personally to Mexico. You were talking about. Talk about that. So what part of Mexico are you currently living in?
Yeah, so I live in Guadalajara, Mexico, and I've been here for about almost 5 years. This September will be 5 years.
What prompted that move?
It was kind of the whole shift to running an agency. You know, back then, 5 years ago, we were like, all right, you know, we kind of had moved beyond the private label stuff, or we're trying to do something a little bit bigger. We were like, okay, what's the cheapest place that we can go to get a business off the ground? We ended up going to Playa del Carmen, myself, Rob, and Steve. And we were there for about 3 months. And then we started getting a lot of traction with the business. From there, I just kind of wanted to go out and see other things. So I ended up here in Guadalajara, which is where I met my girlfriend. She's from here. And then as we kept growing, we just started hiring here. We got our office, we made our first hires. You know, that was the first time we ever really had employees of our own. So it was an interesting experience. But once we realized that, you know, we had something, there was a lot of value that we can provide to businesses. We just kept expanding. And, you know, I've been here ever since. I think at one point we had, you know, a 20-person office here. Since COVID, we've kind of gotten rid of that and everyone's remote. But it was awesome just watching something build like that, you know, literally right in front of you. So
there's a lot of attraction now with sourcing in Mexico and being able to find products that are, you know, closer and easier to get to the States and less logistics, especially with, you know, the prices of shipping and just going through the roof. Are you seeing the same thing on your end?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I have a couple partners down here that specialize in helping U.S. companies source products in Mexico. So if anyone's ever interested in that, they can, you know, feel free to reach out to me. I'm glad to make an introduction there. But yeah, it's definitely becoming more and more popular. We've helped a lot of our clients actually shift manufacturing to Mexico for the exact reasons you said. I think there's a lot of more sophisticated sellers, I think, are becoming a lot more wary of dealing with China, just kind of because of geopolitical issues, shipping cost issues, a lot of other things going on. And Mexico is literally right here in our backyard. The challenge, I can say from my own experience in Mexico, is finding reliable manufacturers. It's definitely a different process than working with a manufacturer in China. But having the right company to kind of manage the entire contract manufacturing process for you in Mexico makes it way easier with meeting deadlines, meeting delivery times, and then actually getting the product to the US is incredibly simple.
What are some of the hot categories? Like what are categories that Mexico really specializes in?
There's a lot, actually. Glass products are really big production in Mexico. It's actually pretty comparative to China. Apparel is another big one in Mexico. There's a lot of big apparel companies. I know where Nike's factory is here. I know where a lot of big brands have their factories here. What's some other ones? Sport goods. I think something like 70% of all golf clubs in the world are made in Mexico. So there's a lot of interesting categories that you can find here. But again, like I said, it's difficult to find these manufacturers and find ones that are reliable. It's easier to go through someone. It's not like there's, an Alibaba really for Mexico, which is something I've spoken about with a lot of different companies about creating, but it's just tough. It's a big coordination problem between all these companies. So having the right partners that already have those connections is huge for manufacturing.
Yeah, that would be the roadblock, right? Like everybody knows, go to Alibaba, find a supplier, but like going to even like Canada, like going to Mexico or Canada to find a supplier, it's kind of difficult.
Yes, it is. I can tell you from, like I said, from my own experience, we have a food product brand and a clothing brand. And it's difficult to find people that are reliable. Finding commercial kitchens, it was a nightmare. We probably went through, 10, 15 chefs trying to get someone that could actually do what we wanted. With apparel, I'm helping my girlfriend with a dress brand. I think she's gone through 10 or 15 different dress manufacturers. But it's a learning process. Everything is a lot of Facebook groups, a lot of WhatsApp groups. Everyone's kind of communicating through there. So, it's really kind of a crapshoot on who you get. And you don't really know what the quality of their product is, what they're going to be able to do until you start working with them. So, again, like I said, working with a contract manufacturer that already has the connections with the factories that can do it, is huge. It's going to be a little bit more expensive than having to do it yourself. But in the long run, it's probably going to save you a ton of headaches and a lot of nightmares with having to deal with these people one-on-one or having to find someone one-on-one.
This topic is really interesting to me. That's why I keep harping on the questions here. But like, what are some of the struggles you see with factories that are? Or is it just the general like FBA or factory to FBA, or is it like quality control? What are some of the struggles they work with?
The main thing is just, quality is one of them. And then just meeting deadlines and responsiveness. It's not the same. The US and Mexico are very similar, like cultural wise, actually. Like, we work similar schedules, a lot of the same companies, a lot of things like that. But when it comes to actually manufacturing here, it's different than the experience with China. Like China, if you have a good manufacturer, they're usually responsive. They're usually on top of things, most of the time, that they're going to deliver the product on time. Mexico, it's a little bit more difficult. If you're not really pushing them, if you're not staying on top of them, you might not, really get an answer. Or if they get a bigger order, they might prioritize something else over what you're doing. So it's definitely a shock, I think, for a lot of people that manufacture in Mexico for the first time when they're like, well, what happened? Like my delivery is 3 weeks late now. It's like, oh, we haven't finished it yet. It's things like that. You really need to keep staying on top of them, which again, it makes it a lot easier to work with someone else than work directly with the factories.
What are the benefits? You mentioned you've helped some of your clients transition. Is the cost comparable, or where are they seeing the big benefit? Is it strictly logistics, or are they actually getting higher quality, better pricing? What are the benefits?
Yeah, so like I said, a lot of categories are comparable with China, particularly like glassware and glassware packaging. So if you have a product that's using glass bottles or any type of glassware product, the cost in Mexico is about the same for glass production as it is in China, which is interesting. So you have the big savings there. Then you have the ability to actually truck it to the US versus sea or air freight, which is either going to take time or it's going to take money to fly it. A truck from Guadalajara to Texas, I think, is like $250 for a pallet. So it's super cheap to get it across the border. And then once it's actually here, it's a NAFTA product. So, being manufactured in Mexico, it's NAFTA. It's easier to get across the border. You don't have as many restrictions or as many challenges. I know I ran into some unexpected situations when I imported from China in the past. So yeah, it's a lot less logistical headaches, a lot less cost to ship the product from Mexico to the US. And the actual cost of the product is a lot cheaper in some instances, depending on what products you're manufacturing.
You mentioned like working with a licensed distributor or somebody who has connections. Is that similar to like what a trading company is on Alibaba? Like working with a trading company to try to get to a supplier?
In a way. So I think like we call that, a trading company, sourcing agent, whatever you want to call it. Typically what the name we use here, the name that I know here is contract manufacturing. So they're essentially sourcing the actual manufacturers. They're negotiating the contracts with the manufacturers, putting in clawback clauses in case they don't deliver on time. So they're handling a lot of those headaches for you. And there's the typical ones that you'll find are usually along the border. Like Tijuana area, Laredo, Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. That's where you find a lot of contract manufacturing businesses. Those are going to be more expensive, but at the same time, if you look in other areas like Mexico City, Puebla, Guadalajara, Monterrey, it's typically cheaper, and the cost to actually ship the product is, like I said, it's not that much to actually get it to the border from here. So the cost savings that you would make with working with a manufacturer that's not right along the border where the prices are higher, you're going to end up at about the same cost point. So it's pretty beneficial to work with like you said, like a trading company, a sourcing agent. And that can be huge. And then in reverse, distribution for US companies in Mexico is also important for a lot of people that want to get down here. We do some distribution ourselves for clients, as well as have some partners down here that do fulfillment. But selling in Mexico and Latin America, that's a whole another challenge. But that's kind of the way things work.
What do you see on that front? Is it growing over there? Like, are people starting to adapt to Amazon and e-commerce?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely growing fast. Mercado Libre is obviously the bigger platform, but Amazon is getting a lot more velocity. The challenge, though, is typically cost. Costs of products in Mexico are usually higher than they are in the US. And that's due to a whole lot of different reasons. But I think a lot of sellers in the US just use the North American remote fulfillment model, NARF, and that leads to higher costs for the end consumer. So it's a cheap shortcut way for US sellers to get into Mexico. But at the same time, it's pushing sellers to other platforms where the products are cheaper, or where a similar product is cheaper. Like, for example, Mercado Libre, there's a lot more brands that are probably at a similar price point or a cheaper price point because they're not using North American remote fulfillment. They're actually bringing the product into the country and selling through there. So it's growing, but it's slow because I think there's a lot of hurdles to actually selling products in Mexico.
Well, speaking of those hurdles, I remember this was years ago. So I don't know if this is still the case, but I attempted to list my products and sell them in Mexico, and I was denied because they were made in China. It was like there was it's like the Mexican law did not want they wanted to maybe prop up their manufacturing and keep out Chinese manufacturing. I don't know if that's still the case, but if that's still the case, that's a good reason to manufacture in Mexico.
Exactly.
That marketplace.
That's very common to find across Latin America in general. Actually, for example, Colombia, there's another huge opportunity there. Colombia doesn't allow Chinese products to be sold on Mercado Libre and Amazon. So, for example, Chinese electronics can't actually be on the marketplace, which is an interesting opportunity for U.S. electronic brands or other foreign electronic brands that are permitted in Colombia. There's hurdles like that in each individual country, and because it's not a marketplace like the European Union or the European Common Market, where the tariffs you have a bunch of countries in a small area and they all have similar rules. Now in Latin America, you have a bunch of countries in the same area and all the rules are different. So it's a lot of navigating and things like that. Specifically for importing products from China to Mexico, I'm not sure if there's a particular restriction there, but in general, you can't import products into Mexico unless you have an importer of record here. They need to have a tax ID. And then even once they import the product, you can't go to FBA with the product because you need a tax ID here in Mexico for your product. So you would still be using essentially FBM here in Mexico to actually get the product to the end consumer if you don't set up a business, if you don't follow the tax rules and the importation rules and all those things. So again, lots of little hurdles and obstacles that make it more difficult to get in. But if you have the right product type or the right price point, you can actually compete pretty well in Mexico and steal a good part of the market share.
What's their sales velocity in comparison to the United States? Like Canada might have like 10% of the volume that the US does. How's Mexico look in that regard?
When it comes to Amazon, it's probably less than that. It's probably like 5-10%. It's smaller. It really depends on, again, your price points and the cost. Mercado Libre, though, is actually a really big opportunity. So if you're going to consider coming into Mexico, I would focus on getting onto multiple platforms instead of just one. Between Mercado Libre and between Amazon and Mexico, you can actually have a pretty significant volume of sales. Like, for example, we were working with a supplement company, and I forgot the numbers. They generate like $400,000 a month in sales of a protein powder, of just one product here in Mexico through Amazon and through Mercado Libre. Mercado Libre is about 90% of those sales compared to Amazon. So it's definitely worth getting into both platforms instead of just being focused on, I want to be on Amazon in Mexico. Kind of diversifying and getting your product out there to as many customers as possible is really the way to go there.
Does Mercado Libre have fulfillment options similar to FBA?
It does. So it does have its own FBA program, but it's really through a third party company out of Monterey. And for what I know, if you're not going through a partner, like we're partnered with them, so we actually can help a lot of brands get into that, that 3PL fulfillment down here that's directly connected with Mercado Libre. But I think it's invitation only if you don't go through somebody to actually get that. So they do have the capability for that. The other option is similar to NARF. They have a warehouse in Miami, I think, or in Florida. And from there, they'll fulfill orders in Mexico, Colombia, Chile, and Brazil, depending on the products. And again, depending on restrictions. So, supplement products are restricted in some places. Electronic products are going to be restricted in other places. So there's all these little nuances to selling in Latin America. But using their fulfillment here in Mexico or using their warehouse out of Miami can be super helpful for getting into these other marketplaces.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned NAFTA earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I may be a little uneducated on everything NAFTA, but does that mean that you're not having to pay tariffs and duties to import products from Mexico?
Yeah, I guess it's not NAFTA anymore. It has a new name, and I forgot what it is. NAFTA is just the name that sticks in my mind. It's like USCAM or something, or USMCA. Mm-hmm. So it's essentially no taxes between products coming in between countries. Mainly from Mexico to the US, there's still some tariffs and some restrictions on products coming from, or taxes coming from the US to Mexico. And you're also paying IVA, which is essentially sales tax or value add tax when you're importing products into Mexico. So there are still some taxes, but yeah, it does eliminate a lot of the tax and financial barriers that you might see if you're importing a product from China or I don't know, some other manufacturing country right now, like Indonesia or Thailand or Vietnam or whatever it may be.
Interesting.
So selling in Mexico is obviously a way to like increase your overall footprint, increase some sales. But it's obviously, got some hurdles to jump to get into that place. Let's pivot to the States here. When somebody comes to work with you, or when you talk to sellers, what's like a common thing that they could be doing to actually increase their overall sales on the U.S. marketplace? Is it just better listings, images? What are some common things you see?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into there, but I mean, what we always recommend starting with is just the fundamentals and the basics. Obviously, good SEO copy and good images. The SEO copy, again, it's more just for indexing. No one really looks at it. Everyone's just looking at your images, and Amazon's constantly improving the image visibility. I mean, on mobile, it's literally all you see, but the main image space on a lot of Amazon listings is actually getting larger. So really having great imagery there, split testing, different branding options for each individual listing is going to be extremely important when it comes to your conversion rates. So you have a good looking listing, you have the right information within your listing images. All of that is going to be massive when it comes to actually scaling from that point, which is, moving beyond just how your listing looks into, all right, how can I drive more traffic here? Whether it be off-platform tactics, whether it be advertising on Amazon or whatever else you're trying to do to grow your brand.
What's really fun about this space is, Dustin may have a different launch plan than I have a launch plan, and you have a different launch plan than what we have. When you launch a new product, what's the setup look like?
This is actually a funny conversation because we keep talking about how to coordinate everything better. Launches are extremely important. If you can get it right from the start, your products are going to do a lot better from the beginning. With us, like I said, we really try to focus on getting the SEO done as soon as possible, get that on the listing. Images are incredibly important for conversions, but a lot of times when we're in the launch, we want to get going immediately. So what we'll do is, we'll do our content, get that going. We start with our basic advertising campaigns. We'll do some off-platform work. So we might focus on trying to do some SEO link building, possibly some promotions on some other platforms to try to drive more traffic to the Amazon listing. Over time, I mean, SEO is going to take time. But again, when you think about SEO, if you have the right keywords in your listing, Amazon is going to index better for almost any search term, any high intent search term on Amazon or on Google if someone's trying to buy a product because of how strong the Amazon website is. So in the long run, link building can be extremely valuable. Apart from that, we also do some work with TikTok and trying to get some social media traffic through the platform because, again, the cost there is still really low. And then depending on what client assets are available, we've also done some work through YouTube ads as well to drive traffic to the Amazon platform. So coordinating all of that can become a really real big headache. And that's kind of where our focus is right now as an agency is how can we do a better job in getting everything out there at once to really maximize the launch.
Yeah, there is a lot. I mean, it's completely different than when we launched our first products back in 2014. And you could,
what's a product launch then, right? Well, you just throw it up there and it's sold.
Throw it on there and you turn on some basic advertising and boom, you're rolling. But Chris and I were talking about this. We're just at Prosper, like we said, and you go there and then you leave and you're like, well, my to-do list has 5,000 things on it now. So I got to reach out to TikTok influencers. I got to set up Google ads. I got to have a, social media presence. And I got to, add Spanish terms to my back end. There's so many things. And that's why brands work with partners who have their, hands in all of these, and they're working with the right partners and experts. Cause it is too much to really succeed. You've got to come at it from a lot of different fronts, like you mentioned, and different products have different tactics. Some products probably work really well with influencers, and some products you might not get any lift from an influencer. And so you probably have to customize these strategies per per product, per brand that you're working with.
For sure. Exactly. Like everything's gonna be different. Talking about the type of influencer you need to do a lot of research to find the right influencers based on product categories. Same thing with link building off platform. Like, how am I going to find the right blogs or the right influencers that are, reviewing products that like mine, that can drive traffic or links to my listings on Amazon. Yeah, it's a massive coordination issue. And I think you're right. When you go to shows like Prosper or any, Amazon related show, even listening to podcasts and webinars like this, you learn so much every time just by seeing what other people are doing. You find the pieces that you think are going to work for you, and then you start implementing them into your plan. So like I said, that is the general plan I gave before is like a general launch strategy we use, but you're right. It's going to vary exactly on, what the client is, what their budget is, what types of products they have, whether the categories are restricted or not. That obviously has an impact on it. So there's a lot of different things that go into getting a launch right for every different brand.
Are there categories of products that you're working with that are much more filled with headaches than others, or more challenging, or that you like gate? Somebody comes to you, you're like, we may not be the right fit.
Yeah, I mean, supplements are always a very difficult category. That's one that we still do work in. We do a lot more of our work now in Latin America, though, with supplement brands, just because the US market is ruthless. You'll get the fake reviews, you'll get people trashing your listing, voting up fake reviews, doing whatever they can to make your product look worse. And it's just terrible. Like, I think that's probably the most cutthroat market or category that I've seen on Amazon. That one is one that we typically stay away from. And if you're in that category, it's not the end of the world. You can get it going, but it's definitely going to be something you need to be aware of. The categories we love, though, are categories like baby products, pet products, food. We love food, apparel, cosmetics. Those are all categories that we really enjoy working in because we see a lot of opportunity there. And because we've worked with so many of those types of brands in the past, we know exactly what we need to do to help someone succeed in that category. So yeah, that's kind of the two the categories I like and categories that I don't like. So
what is your typical or ideal client look like? Are they brands that are small and in their launch phase, or are they brands that maybe haven't been on the Amazon e-commerce space? They've been doing, the retail model direct to big box stores. Who are you working with mostly?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. We've worked with a lot of different people, but kind of where we see the most success are clients that are doing probably 1 to 10 million a year on Amazon and are looking to really scale up to that next level, as well as a lot of brands that maybe have that, like you said, retail presence. They haven't really tried e-commerce before, but they're a well-known brand. That makes it a lot easier to really get them running and up on the platform really quickly. We've worked with a lot of those and a lot of larger brands that are looking to even move away from the vendor central model, try to go 3P instead of 1P, or they're looking to try to get better control over their product listings and all the sellers, all the 3P sellers on their listings to try to consolidate things. So there's a lot of different companies we've worked, or different types of companies we worked with, but typically they're kind of already on the platform. They're not launching for the first time because we find that it's hard to get those right results if they don't have the money or the capital to really invest in all those launch strategies and really get out there.
Yeah. Yep. So obviously having capital is an advantage.
Yes.
Deploying the capital in its most efficient way is another challenge. So let's say I've got a brand that's doing 2 million a year. I've been bootstrapping it with my small team. We got it to where it is now, and we partner with you. And our goal, we want to scale this. We want to get the maximum out of this potential out of this brand. Where do you start with a brand that's got, years of traction on the space? What is your starting point to help springboard that to the next level?
Yeah. So that's another very good question. If someone's already on there, they've already been doing well. They're typically, what we find, they're typically succeeding within the platform. So they've just been advertising well, or they've been indexed well for SEO. And that's kind of where we'll shift a lot of our focus to possibly the DSP platform, or possibly even trying to drive more traffic through link building, or through off-platform link placements to the Amazon listings. With a with $1,000 budget per month, you can build a lot of links off platform to Amazon, which is really going to help maximize your SEO presence on Google if people are coming and searching for that. And then from there, all of those people that are coming to your product website, or to the product listing, are people that are probably interested in your product, or are probably interested in the category, or have some type of affinity. And that's where you can really start leveraging things like sponsor display, views remarketing, sponsor display, purchase product remarketing, DSP remarketing, similar audiences in DSP, all that type of stuff, to really start scaling the brand going forward. So yeah, I mean, they've already at a point where they're being successful with their current sales, but how can we help them, gain more visibility when it comes to, Google searches or other places that customers might be looking for their product? And then how do we broaden that by using off platform placements, or even on platform display placements, to try to get them back to the Amazon listings to purchase?
All right, so you obviously know a lot. You've learned a lot along the way. Let's take a trip back in time now. So let's say you're talking to that new seller who is yet to pull the trigger, right? And they haven't got a product yet, but they want to sell on Amazon. Knowing what you know now, what would be like your game plan if you were going to start selling on Amazon tomorrow? Like, what would you do?
Oof. Okay.
Like, break it down. Like, okay, here's how I would do this now. Here's how I would give me the playbook.
So one of the interesting things that I think we saw in Q4 that I think obviously would change my perspective on a lot of things was the restriction of FBA inventory. It seems like FBM, third-party fulfillment, is actually not how do I say it? FBA itself is maybe not as important in the past as it used to be. In the past, you had to be FBA to start selling. Now it looks like FBM, there might be some opportunity there. So if you're just getting your feet wet for the first time, I would start by probably maybe even if you're testing different product ideas, whatever it may be, probably just think about even fulfilling from your house until you really have the traction. The cost of Amazon, the cost of actually having your inventory in there is really, really high. So if you don't have the capital to get it going, it's gonna be tougher. Obviously, your advertising is gonna take a little bit of a hit there. So that's one thing you really need to consider, is what's more important. Am I gonna convert higher with FBA, or am I trying to minimize my costs with FBM? To kind of come to that conclusion, you should really look at the market and what your competitors are doing. If your competitors are all FBA, it's more than likely that you're going to need to be FBA. If your competitors are a mix, you might be able to get away with using third-party fulfillment until you have more traction and have more capital ready to invest in something like FBA. So that's the first thing, is like, what's my logistical options, and what's the market that I'm competing in? What are they doing for their logistical options? And then making a decision there. That would be the first step. Then beyond that, obviously SEO, focusing on your main keyword, whatever it is, the highest traffic keyword, the highest value keyword you have right there in the title. That's obviously extremely important than all the other keywords throughout the rest of the copy. Like I said before, this is massively important for Amazon. For people actually shopping, they don't read that stuff. It's really just like there, for the algorithm within Amazon. Beyond that, next step, focus on the images. What are my unique value propositions of my product? How do they compare to the other competitors? Look at other competitor listings and go through reviews, see what people are complaining about competitor products, or how your product answers a lot of those complaints. And then use that information to really call out those unique value propositions within your product imagery, or the problems that you're really solving that your competitors aren't solving, or whatever feature you have that's better than your competitors. Calling that out in your listing is probably going to help you convert a lot better over time. And then from there, just starting with some basic advertising, automatic campaigns, just get it going. See if you have the right SEO, you're going to get some traction there. You can start harvesting keywords there. You can start doing some keyword research through tools like Zonguru, Jungle Scout, Helium 10, whatever your preference is. Start getting more of those high volume keywords and then start slowly building out your advertising. So there's a lot of steps in there, I will say, but I think really focusing and breaking it down and doing the fundamentals well is the most important thing. There's a lot of people out there that say you can, cut corners, or you can buy reviews, or, all these things that maybe are black hat or things that have worked in the past. That stuff is going to eventually catch up to you. If you have the right fundamentals, if you build your business the right way, if you build your marketing the right way, it's going to be a better, more steady growth over time, less obstacles or less challenges that are going to come up. You might be able to cheat your way to, $100,000 in sales per month faster by doing black hat stuff. But like I said, if your listing gets suspended because you did something, or Amazon catches on to something that you've done in the past, that can come back to bite you. And I've literally seen sellers that have done that, have hundreds of thousands of dollars in inventory, and now all of a sudden they're banned from Amazon. And what do they do with all that inventory? How do they move it? So like I said, fundamentals, playing by the rules, not trying to cheat your way to the top. That's usually the most important things.
Yeah. So fundamentals and risk mitigation. That is where you're starting.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah. Logistics are one of the most important things. And that's a huge fundamental, whether it's figuring out how to get your product from China, how to get your product from Mexico, or wherever else you're manufacturing. If you have poor logistics, that's probably going to be one of the highest cost items within your business. But if you have everything ironed out well, it's going to run way smoother. The fundamentals are going to be built way better for you to start scaling from there. So,
love it. Well, take a few minutes, because everybody's listening. They obviously see your stuff. You're really helping a lot of brands out there. You've been in the game a long time. If people are looking to get in touch with you or explore working with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch with us is either reaching out through our website or emailing us directly. The website is amzadvisors.com. You can email myself directly at mike@amzadvisors.com, or my partner steve@amzadvisors.com. We'll be glad to help you with anything that you're looking for. There's a massive opportunity here in Latin America, in Mexico, in Colombia, and Brazil. We're helping a lot of brands do that, particularly brands in the supplement, cosmetic, and food space. So if you're looking to really get into Mexico for the first time, or get into Latin America for the first time, we would be glad to talk to you and see what ways we can help.
Awesome. Well, I encourage everyone listening to do that for sure. And Mike, we need to get you or some of your other founders maybe on some more episodes. I'd love to go deeper into the different marketplaces in Latin America, what they look like, how the customer base is different than US. There's a lot we could go down. So maybe we'll have to do that. We'll reach back out to you and schedule maybe some more time to pick your brain, because it's fascinating. The expansion possibilities are amazing.
There's massive opportunities here, and I'd love to get my partner Ramiro on here, who helps us with a lot of our Latin American operations. I'm sure he could give a lot more detail on things that I can. But yeah, we would be glad to do that. Thank you for the invitation.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for your insights, your story, everything. It was fun to listen to, and listen to your tactics for product launches and different marketplaces. So we really appreciate you joining us today. Everyone go check out amzadvisors.com. Get in contact with Mike if you want to talk about his service offerings. And additionally, if you like content like this, make sure you're subscribing to this podcast. We're talking with experts like Mike every day about different topics. So to stay on top of everything, we'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast. You can also see our live streams on Solozo's social media channels. So LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, all the live streams are there. You can go back and watch old episodes. And additionally, if you're struggling with your PPC right now on Amazon, you're doing a lot of work manually, you're looking to offload some of that work, we'd love to help you out at Solozo. You can go to solozo.com and book a demo. You'll get either Chris or myself on that call. We'll talk about anything Amazon and also show you how Solozo can optimize and automate your advertising for you. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Mike, for joining.